Welcome, everyone, to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. I'm your host, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money color commentator. On today's show, the importance of interactive co-planning, part 2 in our series on the Journey Guide to Retirement with mathematician and software creator, Michael Smith. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thanks again, Steve.
Okay, Michael, now in the first segment, we got our numbers. Now we're going to plug our numbers in. And it's a revelation to the client, generally speaking, that you can spend $87,966, not $100,000, because the sources aren't there.
That's right.
Walk me through this.
That's right. So they weren't able to meet their goal. So we're able to show them very quickly, and again, within a second, running those 5,000 Monte Carlo simulations. They could spend they only have a 75% chance of actually meeting that goal.
And again, remember, you said the 5,000, the Navy's doing 4,000.
That's right.
And you're doing 5,000. Most software is only doing 1,000 or less, and so their percentage numbers will be way too wide.
It could vary between 2 and 3%. That's a huge
But the 5,000
variation.
is getting me what? Well, I'm getting down to what?
So that's actually bringing it within, you could vary more than 2 to 3% if you're only doing 1,000 simulations. So we're much more accurate, and yet we're even faster.
So he sees the gap, right? And so show me the number, because the client usually has a little problem, because he sees he's got a $12,000 gap.
That's
right. But what I like about your software is you do one thing that I think this is exactly where the market's going, especially if you're an advisor watching this show. This is a cash flow graph. This isn't asset allocation modeling, and you have a patented contract on this. You know what you're talking about. But this is where the market is. And cash flow is it. Walk me through this graph.
Sure. So this is, as you said, a cash flow graph and a graphical representation of where that money is coming from. So you can see it through retirement. The gray represents income coming in from Social Security. That red line above, this is something that's unique to what we're doing. So that actually is the spending amount throughout retirement. So often, advisors will look at just a constant increase based on inflation, which is important to take inflation into account. But what actually research shows, and we've worked with a couple of leading universities on this, is that people tend, it's kind of intuitive, right? People tend to spend less as they get older. So we're actually representing that right within the calculation.
But you actually did research on this. You pulled research numbers on this to demonstrate that there is a little kind of a leveling off, maybe even a small decline. And then the elder years where you're getting into long-term care and medical expense, then it starts picking back up again.
Exactly.
See, and I like that, because that's the real world number. We're looking at another research, plugging it into the software that you've already mechanically woven into it in its operation.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's huge. That's
exactly. And we're actually including RMDs into this calculation. Everything is incorporated, pulling where to pull that money from, so the advisor and the client can actually see this together.
Okay, now he sees the good news, or maybe in this case, bad news. How can I, as an advisor, make the changes now in the software right then and there live?
So often the focus is on sacrifices, and we want to actually move that client. Anybody can talk about delaying retirement or saving more. We want to move that conversation away from the sacrifices and think about what are the opportunities that we can actually, what are some of those other options? And that's what we've actually built here in the software. So as we bring up this fun page that we call Exploring Options, what's interesting here is this idea of co-planning. So this is a new concept that we're actually introducing. So the idea is that the advisor, instead of traditionally, the advisor will meet with the client. They'll understand kind of where their assets are, maybe talk about a goal. They'll have to go in the back office, maybe spend 2 to 3 hours, maybe longer, with a paraplanner, maybe multiple hours, to put together a static plan. Come back then a few weeks later, meet with the client, and the client says, Steve, and I'm sure you've experienced this, the client says, oh, I forgot about that IRA that I have, that 401k that's another. Or, well, what happens if I actually change Social Security? Well, the advisor's stuck at that point because it's not an interactive discussion, right? And that's something that we're trying to change. We're trying to actually change it so it's actually a co-planning experience.
Okay.
So something that we've actually enabled here, and you can actually see in real time, what's the impact of actually changing something like Social Security? So let's say that Mary or Joe, let's say, for example, decides, okay, instead of taking Social Security at 62, what's the impact of actually pushing that out to say 66.
Which may be full retirement age.
Correct. So once we actually do that, again, we're running
And you're just,
5,000.
you could do just hers and not his.
Exactly.
So you can mix it up. Okay.
That's right. That's right. And so what we're doing here is we're actually running 5,000 simulations in the background. And what's really the benefit of having this conversation with the client, there are multiple benefits. Number one, as I said, for the advisor, we're talking about efficiency. So no longer do they have to then go back, spend multiple hours.
So the saving time, I can totally see the perfect. This is perfect for advisors. They don't want to be sitting there redoing this, setting up an additional appointment when it's unnecessary.
That's right.
And by the way, I like on-demand numbers, right?
Yeah.
This is on demand.
Yeah.
Now we just made one alteration, taking her from 62, not the Joe's 62 to 66 full retirement age.
Yeah.
So he's getting no discount on Social Security, and you move that number from 87,966 to 92,540.
Exactly.
By 4-year push.
That's right. And that's all that we had to do. And we're running, again, all of those simulations, seeing, this is an accurate calculation. It's an after-tax number. And the benefit of actually doing this right with the client, and this is actually so critical, Steve, because I think, again, instead of it being a back and forth inefficiency for the advisor, what actually is happening here is that the client is starting to participate in the plan. So they're able to see in real time what that impact is. So this concept of co-planning actually allows the client to almost take ownership of the plan. What that actually leads to, Steve, and this is again so important, that trust factor between the advisor and the client starts to build. No longer is it the advisor going in the back office, but rather the client is right there. So speed to trust increases, as well as for the client then takes ownership of the plan. It's their plan. They're much more likely to actually implement the plan than they would if it was something that was just handed to them.
If I want to make an adjustment, and I need to, if I'm going to still hit their 100,000, because that's their desire.
That's right.
And we're just using Social Security as one example.
Exactly.
So go ahead and bump me a little bit, more. Maybe let's take a mom.
Sure.
And let's take the female side of the equation and just make her full retirement age.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what we're doing is we're taking away, in this case, just for you fans and aficionados of the code, we're moving Social Security now into the full retirement age. So there's no discount issue here. We don't have to worry about it. This little area, we're just moving 4 years for Social Security. Now, it modified it and almost got me another almost $1,500. So we're making adjustments live in front of the client.
Yes.
And they are going to sit there and go, I really want to keep my threshold of 100,000 spending. And I don't see a problem with us making this small maneuver or this small adjustment. And that's by the way, a small adjustment. This isn't a large adjustment.
No, not at all.
We're just doing a small adjustment, and you're letting Social Security carry the day.
Exactly. And again, we're focusing on what are those other solutions instead of sacrifices and having to delay retirement.
You're still retiring on time.
Still retiring the same time.
Now, we may have to go to another, if I want to hit that, I'm short still about 5,000 some odd change a year. But now I can make modifications in other places as well.
That's right.
I might want to take maybe some non-qualified monies that I can play with or adjust to get basis out of it, maybe to play with that a little bit and see if I can get, because this is including the tax issue, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now when I'm looking at this is one of our first examples of real-time changes. We're using Social Security on this. Is this, from a planning point of view, would you say that's a standard planner's strategy? First thing I'm going to look at, when I got all these resources of income, that's one of the places you'd like to go to first.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the first things, is to actually look at what's the impact of modifying when they take Social Security. Because, as you think about, what are those things that are kind of in the control of the advisor and also in kind of in hand with the client. So what are those tools that the advisor has in their tool belt? And modifying or recommending when they actually take Social Security is really one of the first ones.
So that's a strategic issue that you need to deploy when you're trying to get to their stated spending number.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, don't forget to watch our next segment on Planning Made Easy, Part 3 in our series on the Journey Guide to Retirement. And keep in mind, before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always check with your tax consultant, legal counsel, or your financial advisor. You've been watching Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game.